Everybody, welcome to Around the Twist, episode 263. It's August 31st, 2016, and I've got a fly that has been dive bombing me for like the last 3-4 minutes, so if you see me like suddenly do that, that's why. It's Wednesday! I remembered it was Wednesday. I'm kind of shocked because the week's just been weird again, and that's okay. So, first things first, what's on my needles? I felt like I didn't do a ton this week, but then I looked back and went, yeah, I did a little bit. So first thing is the Jayne Hat number 3. This is not the finished one. This is my husband's one that I made for him a couple of years ago, so you can remember. I am here on this third one. So this is the Jane Cobb hat by Heather Hill. It is a free pattern. The pattern itself doesn't go to your Ravelry library when you go to it. It actually is a pattern on the Craftster forum. So it takes you over to the forum post where the hat pattern is. I have finished the body of the hat. Obviously, I have not finished off the top of the hat. I'm using Cascade 220, and the orange is 7824. And the yellow is 7827. They are both held doubled. So I've been winding them into my center pull cakes and pulling from the outside and the inside of the ball at the same time. Knit on a US 10.5, a 6.5 millimeter needle. And I'm actually done with the body of the hat. I just have to, I couldn't find my knit kit that has all of my, I know where it's at now. I can't believe I didn't just reach behind me and grab the bag it's in. But I just have to cut this, thread it through the 8 stitches I have remaining at the top of the hat, and the body of the hat is done. Then I need to pick up for the ear flaps and knit those down, do my little tassels, do the killer pom-pom that's on top of the hat, and it will be finished. I don't know why, it's like I'm at a transition point and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to knit on that right now, and I put it away, even though it's so easy to do. And I had hubby's hat out because I didn't know where, again, didn't know where the knit kit was, so I didn't have my tape measure. So I went and got his hat out of the closet and counted rows. His is a lot softer than the other one because it's been washed and blocked and it's been worn for 3-4 years now, so it's coming along. I finished the body, yay! Or the body of the hat. Does a hat have a body? I finished the hat. The main part of the hat. Still needs the flowers. So, yeah, that's it for the first thing. Second thing is my I'm a Rock Star socks. These got a lot of attention this week. I'm knitting these up out of a sock blank from Gail's Art in the Rainbow Rockstar colorway. It's her 75/25 superwash merino and nylon blend. It is a single knit sock blank. She offers both single and double knits. And the double knits are just 2 strands held together, so if you're a 2 at a time sock knitter, make sure you look at her Etsy listings and read them. It will say if it is double knit or single knit. And the double knit does not refer to DK weight. It will say DK weight if that's the case. But for her sock blanks, of which this is one, this is the Rockstar Rainbow, so here's the opposite end. I'm already pretty much through all the stars at this end. This is what happened when you This is what happens when you have an 1.5-hour long staff meeting. So I've got a little bit of the stars left on this end of the sock blank that I'm pulling from. Last week, when last you saw us, I feel like I'm in one of those serial westerns anytime I talk about this. So last week, I had the cuff finished, and I think I was like there on the heel flap. I was like into the heel flap. I have obviously finished the heel flap, the heel turn. I have also finished the gusset, and I'm motoring my way out the foot. I did, I had like 3 rows done into the gusset when I took it to the meeting. So basically everything from like here out, that's an 1.5 hours of knitting right there. It's kind of nice when all you have to do is sit there and look kind of interested and nod. It's also a boon to be able to look up from your knitting and meet the eye of the person who's speaking. That way they know you're paying attention. It's how I made it through so many lectures in college, and like I was, at least in college, I was still able to take notes. I'd sit somewhere unobtrusive and off to the side or toward the back so that I wasn't distracting my classmates. And one of my professors one time asked me, "Do you even take notes? I never even see you writing." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I handed her, they always had PowerPoints for us, but I handed her my PowerPoint and I had all kinds of notes down the side. She's like, "I never see you with a pen in your hand. I don't know how you do that." And I'm like, just look more often. I don't know. But if you're doing this, it's always good to check and or inform your professors first. Every time I was knitting in a class, I would speak to the professors beforehand and be like, "Okay, so just so you know, I'm going to be doing this during lecture. I'm not doing it to distract you, distract the classmates. I will keep it to a minimum. I will keep quiet." It helps me focus. And it's better than me suddenly losing focus and nodding off in the middle of class, which I'd see a lot of my classmates doing, especially in the big lectures. So knitting saved me through many a nursing lecture in general in college, because I was able to focus, and it's helping with staff meetings now, so yay. I don't think I said, I'm knitting that up on a US 1, a 2.25 millimeter needle. I believe it's an Addy Lace Turbo because it's the gold toned needles are the Addy Lace. And that's it for what's on my needles right now. Pokey Things, I did get like one good long day of stitching this week. And I used it to now my Once Upon a Time sampler from Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So still working on November. I managed to, and this isn't going to look like a whole lot. So last week I had finished all the dark gray on the wolf. Well, I did, and I think I'd done the lighter pink of the hat between his ears. I was getting ready to come up and, I don't know, can you guys see the lighter pink? I think it's really hard to see even in person, so I don't know if you can. The lighter pink on the sides, like underneath the ears here. I was getting ready to stitch that, and I was stitching up and going, that doesn't look right. That, I'm looking at the pattern, looking at it. This center bit of dark gray, there's supposed to be 3 rows of it. There are now. I only had 2. So I had to rip out everything from about here up on the wolf and reknit it all, adding a second long row in there at, like, across his forehead. And redo the hat, redid the whole hat. I did the dress, I did the shoes. That was one afternoon of knitting, cross stitch. So I didn't get as much done as I would have liked to, but there was a lot of ripping involved, and I hate ripping cross stitch. I hate it. It's just like, oh, those hard-won stitches, and there's no really easy way to rip out. You have to take it out a stitch at a time. It's just a pain in the butt. So I try not to do that, but there was no way I could have fudged it. I mean, I'm sure I could have if I wanted to, but I've spent this long on it, I might as well do it right. So, fixed, taken care of, done. Yeah, that's all I got done for Pokey Things this week. So, right into Various and Sundry. I've got upcoming the sweaters for the twins. I talked about last week. I had done the citric acid soak on Tara's sweater that I just needed to measure her. I got that done last night. My mom was nice enough to write down measurements while I corralled twins. And I also took Gabe's measurements too, so I could start on his Lancelot sweater. So out of Yoth, Y-O-T-H, Yoth. I'll say Yoth yarns. So those 2 sweaters will be upcoming. Now that I have Tara's measurements, especially since I have to do math and figure out which size I'm actually going to be using to get it to fit her and be a little bit big. Still have to look at my swatch and measure my swatch, and then we'll be golden. I can start rewind the yarn again and start knitting. So that will be interesting. I should do that today. We'll see. So my parents are out visiting for the week. Yesterday, Mom and I had to run around and do some errands and decided, hey, let's go see my sister knits. Neither one of us have been there. I've lived out here 2 years. I haven't hit a yarn store besides Loopy U. What's wrong with me? So we went to my sister knits. Very nice ladies. I got a couple things. Full disclosure. They have very big bags. I did not need a bag this big. I was finally able to score some Lollipop yarn. I have never been able to get Lollipop yarn in any of the updates. It's like one of those holy grail yarns. I don't know why. I'm just not quick enough. I suck at online updates. I either get there 15 minutes late or even 5 minutes late and it's gone, or it's in my cart and someone else snipes it, and So they had a few balls of Lollipop yarns left with an update, and one of them was Some Like It Hot. So it's, according to this, it will knit up in equal stripes of 6 rows of Smooch and 6 rows of I Feel Pretty. So these are going to be some socks for Tara, I believe, because baby girl loves her some pink, and this is nothing if not her colors. I have not shown this to her because I will never get it back. But anytime she sees something pink, it's, I love pink! And she's so excited about it. So that was one thing. The other thing, so my sister knits is located in an older neighborhood, a lot of beautiful Victorian turn-of-the-century homes, and this is actually, you go down what would have been the driveway, what is the driveway, through a gate and through a beautifully landscaped backyard to what used to be the carriage house in the back. And that's the store. And there's a downstairs and an upstairs. They apologized to us all over the place because they're in the middle of reorganizing and re-putting everything, and said, ask if you need anything. So upstairs, I saw this. Now, Marinated Yarns it's a shawl kit. It's a shawl kit that my sister knits put together. The yarn is Marinated Yarns. It's her Scrumptious HT 150. So it's her fingering weight. It's an 80-10-10 superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon blend. It's gorgeous and soft and squishy. The colorway is called North Sea. So the main color is North Sea, this dark blue. And then there's 5 colors. And so I got this to make a shawl pattern that they had sitting out on the table called First Point of Libra. And the kit makes that. So it's a garter stitch shawl, but it's kind of modular, I guess. There's, so 6. Why are there 6? Colors 1 through 4. And there's actually, okay. It only lists 4. Why is there only 4 listed? I'm lost. Okay, so it says colors 1 through 4, 100 yards of each of Tide Pool, Sea of Glass, Glacial Lake, and Arctic Ice, and color 5 Polar Frost. There's 200 yards. So unless these two are supposed to be the same, but this seems like a bigger one. That's Polar Frost. What's this one? I guess I didn't even look through this. Arctic Ice. Okay, I'm just going to pull these out of the bag because, I mean, they're adorable and they're all... Sorry, I'm confused. Okay, they didn't list the purple one, Amethyst, on here. So... basically, the pattern is available on Ravelry. It's called First Point of Libra. The design is by Laura Ayler. I also got the pattern printed because I was at the shop. And I read this somewhere on here. Okay. The background color should be your darkest or lightest color, or a color that contrasts with your gradients. It's most important that color 5 stands out against your main color. Pattern is written for a light background with the gradients being worked lightest to darkest. If you use a dark background, work the gradients from darkest to lightest. It can also be worked with non-gradient colors. You may want to play around with the coloring page. Evidently there's a coloring page in here. So, darkest to lightest would go like that. These are all... 133, 100. I don't know why the purple's in there, I'll be honest. Because I think the purple's not supposed to be there, and it's supposed to be just the blues, but with the purple thrown in, I loved it, so meh. We'll figure it out. It's fine. It's all good. Might just have a smaller section of the Polar Frost at the end, so cool. Cool. Either that or this was just a throw-in for the heck of it. I don't know. All right. Because this lightest color is actually a 200 yard skein. All the rest of these are labeled as 100 yards, and then the purple says 133 yards, so I don't know why that's in there. Meh, I'll figure it out. It's all good. It's all good. It was something fun sitting on the table. It spoke to me. The kit is gorgeous. I love how they had it all bagged up and pretty, and I'm not getting it back in there all pretty, but that's okay. It is a drawstring bag, so that can be your project bag. I love blues and I love jewel tones, so this just spoke to me. The kit, it's not cheap, obviously. The kit itself, the whole thing was 89 bucks. Just disclosure, if you're going to contact my sister Knits and say, hey, I want this. It's going to be a little spendy, but they do ship. You just have to call them. I don't even know what their webpage is, but my sister Knits located in Fort Collins. So I got that, and then paying for everything, we're on our way out, and I happened to turn on, here's a little sign by the front door saying they have Addie sock rockets. And I'm like, you have sock rockets? What? So I found, finally, I'm so excited, Addie Turbo sock rockets. Yeah. I'm excited. This makes me so happy. I said if I have any issues with them, bring them back. They will trade them out. No problem. No questions asked. So huzzah. I finally found a 2.25 millimeter sock rocket, and I have a source for them. So they had tons of them in a drawer. I just had to ask because they didn't have them hanging up because of the reorganization thing. So Mom and I had great fun there. We probably could have dropped a lot more than we did. I tried to be conservative. The Lollipop Yarns was a splurge. Actually, both of those things were a splurge because really, I don't need more yarn. Oh, Daisy, I'm sorry. Come here, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Come here. Come on. Come here. I just set the bag down on you, didn't I? I'm sorry. She's like, get away from me. Help. Help. Okay. Now you're going to snooze me and lick my hand. Okay. So that's what's been going this week. A little better, not so much conflict, interesting, what have you, that we had last week. So just to keep the show shorter, I'm only going to do one question out of the Any Questions thread. If you have any questions for me, please feel free. Pop over to the Ravelry group. The thread is stickied at the top of the message board. It just says any questions. Go ahead and post your question in there and I will get to it. So this one for this week is from Shorty. She says, I love your podcast, enjoy seeing your little ones and your fur babies. So her questions are, what made you want to do a podcast? Any suggestions for someone who's considering doing a podcast? Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, Sonia. What made me want to do a podcast? I'd been helping out on an audio podcast, and the people that ran that audio podcast had always said, oh, we're never going to do video, never going to do video. And I'm just thinking, knitting's a very, Phoebe, stop chewing your paw. Knitting's a really visual medium. Not that there's anything wrong with audio podcasts. I love audio podcasts. It's how I get so much done around the house or driving in the car. It's nice. But if you're not a great descriptor, is that even a word? If you're not great at describing things, there's a lot, oh, it's such a pretty color. Well, when all you have is audio, you can't say, look at the depth of color, look at this, look at this. You actually have to get in and basically be your own thesaurus. You have to really get into your descriptions and your terms. Whereas with video, you can see the cables, the texture, the lace, I don't know how I would have showed you guys the Even Star shawl or how I would have even begun to describe it. Besides holding it up and going, look, I finished the arches. Well, arches to some people are circular and those had points. So if you were just going off of my verbal description, you would have seen something very different in your head and maybe been disappointed when you'd gone and looked at the pattern. So just getting into a different medium, breaking the mold that at the time was audio podcasts, was what made me want to do it. That and I enjoyed sharing what I was knitting with people. So I just decided to branch out a little bit from where I'd been dabbling before and make my own show. Any suggestions for someone who's considering doing a podcast? Think about the time commitment. So, yeah, I sit down with you guys for half an hour a week. And I know I've talked about this before. Make sure it's something you really, really want to do, that you're passionate about, because oh, excuse me. Sorry, everyone with headphones, that was bad. Make sure it's something you're passionate about, something you really, really, really want to do. Because either commit to a weekly, commit to a bi-weekly, commit to a monthly, commit to something. Make sure you have that time. You won't be able to build your viewership if you don't keep a consistent schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sniffling now after that sneeze. But like I committed this year, I'm going to record every week. Or when I was having to work every other Wednesday, yes, you will have a show every other week. Are there weeks where I'm like, I don't want to record? Yes, there's going to be those weeks, but you need to keep putting yourself out there. If you don't want people asking you stuff about your life, or if you can't take criticism and critiques, then maybe think hard about it again, because there will be people who do that. Don't read iTunes reviews. Don't. It will just upset you. That's my biggest piece of advice. I haven't looked at the iTunes reviews and I can't tell you how long. What else? Make sure it's something you can afford. I've showed you guys, my setup is very, very simple. You don't have to have light reflectors, fancy studio lights. You don't have to have a big fancy schmancy camera or a lot of editing software. With mine, what you see is what you get. If you want to expand later and you have the funds and the resources, great. But it's not something I would want to go in the hole over. So think about that. Think about time commitment, think about money commitment, think about, is this something you're going to be passionate about in 3 or 6 months, or are you going to go, well, no one watches my show, I'm not going to do this anymore. Keep podcasting through any slumps you have. There's going to be weeks where you're going to go, I haven't really knit anything, but people still want to see you. They want to see your personalities. I can tell you, for anyone who's met me in person, I'm not necessarily like this in person. Even when I was interviewing for that other job at my place of work earlier this year, when I went to go in for the interview, I was like, okay, I have to turn on podcast Karen. For me, it's a different personality than how I am at home, than how I am in everyday life. So if anyone's seen me at a retreat and you're disappointed in how I am, I'm sorry. I can't keep this switched on this long. I'm very much an introvert. I'm normally very quiet, don't talk a whole lot. So make sure, but I know recording, whether you want to do audio, whether you want to do video, you have to crank it up a notch. It has to be, your facial expressions have to be bigger. Your gestures, while still keeping it in the frame, have to be bigger. Your personality just has to jump out, because if I'm just sitting here and I'm talking about my knitting and yeah, we did this, you have to be able to look at the camera. You have, and I know I'm not that great at that. You have to be able to just dial it up. If your personality is normally at a 5, take it up to an 8. You have to bring it out more. But, like I was saying, when I interviewed this last spring, I actually looked at the woman who had recommended me for the job as she's walking me down toward the interview, and I was like, you're gonna see a different side of me. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, she's like serial killer you or what? And I was like, no, you're gonna see podcast Karen come out, so don't you dare laugh. And she's sitting down the table from me through this whole thing, just cracking up. And we got out there and she's like, I have never seen you like that before. I said, I know, that's different personality. It's just a separate part of me that comes out when I'm here, when I have to perform, when I'm doing this, when I did drama or theater, when I did speech. That was that side of me. I'm not like that in everyday life. So that's a big part of it too. I can also tell you it's very draining for me as an introvert. As I wouldn't say I'm a full introvert, I'm more of an extroverted introvert, because I get in a crowd, I get in a group, and that performance aspect turns on. I get here, that performance aspect turns on. But for an everyday, day-to-day thing, when I get done with this, honestly, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I have to sit. I have to recharge. So just make sure you're prepared for that. And yeah, have fun. That's the most important thing. This, if you choose to podcast, I don't see it as a job. This is fun. And I've said many, many times, when podcasting ceases to be fun, when it becomes a slog and a job, I won't do it anymore. I'll be done. I'll record a farewell show, and so there will be some closure, and it's just like, done. I think taking a year off for me really helped with that, because I was starting to just stretch myself a little too thin, but now I'm back. I feel a lot better, and yay, we're here. So Sonia, I hope that answered your questions. Again, feel free, if anyone has a question, feel free to post over in the Any Questions thread over on Ravelry. And I think that's it. So until next week, happy knitting.